Hey guys, Andre here, and I've been a software engineer for over 20 years now. During that time, I've had the privilege of mentoring and coaching countless other software engineers, helping them to progress in their careers. In this video, I'd like to share with you tips so that you can become the greatest software engineer in the shortest time possible. Now, there are a multitude of things that go into becoming a great software engineer. So what I've done is summarize these into 8 core points that you need to focus on. Are you ready? Here we go. Starting with point number 1, and this is gonna sound really obvious, but you need to understand your programming language. I don't simply mean how to write a for loop or a print statement. If you understand your programming language in depth, you'll understand how it translates into machine instructions. You will understand how it allocates and deallocates memory. You will know the performance implications of writing a statement one way versus writing it in another. The newest programming languages such as Swift, Kotlin, and Go really simplify the job of a developer and makes their lives more productive, to the point where they actually don't even need to learn or know about the low-level stuff like memory management. This is why I find fewer and fewer engineers are understanding the language in depth the way they actually need to. The more you understand the language, the more efficient your coding becomes and the better equipped you are to write software that performs. It also prevents you from encountering those head-scratching moments because of a unique feature in the language that you didn't fully appreciate. Every programming language has its own unique quirks, such as weird syntax, unusual functionality, or non-standard implementations. These things can act as a real stumbling block for new developers to the language or even seasoned pros. Learn that language inside out and you will avoid all of this. Now, the next tip I have for you guys is to learn how to dance. This one is actually optional, but I went through a few dance moves on the dance floor at a work Christmas party, and I became the most popular software engineer for a good while in the company. I soon realized that actually most software engineers don't know how to bust a move. This is vitally important if you want to elevate yourself out of just geek status. Hashtag just saying. So the next tip I have for you guys is to learn your IDE. That is, master your integrated development environment. I can remember numerous times during my career where I was stuck in my workflow because I didn't understand or know how to use a particular feature of the IDE. I recall Apple releasing an update of Xcode and changing it so much that I'd literally have to learn the IDE again from scratch. A lot of times I'd take shortcuts and not bother to read the documentation. Man, was this a big mistake. My advice is to take some time, watch some videos, some tutorials or something, read the documentation, understand the IDE as much as possible. Even learn the shortcut keys for doing repetitive tasks. Tasks such as opening up a particular file or refactoring some code. If you know the shortcut keys, you can become so much more productive because you spend less time doing a particular task. Don't feel embarrassed about asking colleagues how to do something either. Pride is the greatest killer of a software engineer's joy. Spend the time up front and it will save you a lot more time later on down the line. Now, this next tip is crucial to you becoming the master of your domain, and that is know your platform, frameworks, and APIs. The more you know your platform APIs and frameworks, the quicker you will be able to complete tasks. Whether that's iOS SDK because you're an iPhone developer, or the Android SDK because you couldn't quite make it as an iOS engineer, or Spring because you are a back-end web developer. It's vital that you know as much as possible about your framework. Have you experienced in the past being stuck on a problem for hours? You eventually solve the problem by coming up with a creative but complex solution, only to find out later that you could have achieved the same thing with a few lines of code because the framework already supported it. If you have any kind of inkling that there could be an easier way to solve the problem, before you start bashing out code, just read through the documentation of the framework and see if someone has actually spent the time to solve the problem for you already. You'll probably find that someone has done the hard work for you and saved you some sleepless nights. Or is it just me that loses sleep over code?
Or is it just me that loses sleep over code?
Now, this next tip ensures that you become the most effective developer that you can be, and that is to learn design patterns. Design patterns are a way to make your code modular and reusable. If you have solved the problem once before and written your code to be modular and reusable, you can literally lift that code from one place, put it into another, and easily integrate it in no time at all. I do this with so many software projects that people think I'm a coding machine. Well, my secret's out now. I just know how to reuse code. This next tip is the key to writing software that's robust and doesn't break, and that is use test-driven development. It still amazes me the number of software engineers that don't use test-driven development or even write tests for their code. They clearly haven't been told the well-known secret. It actually makes you code faster. Not because you write less code, but because you spend more time up front thinking about all the different scenarios, all the edge cases, all the possible places your code can actually fail. And then ensuring you have automated tests to cover those scenarios. After all, who wants to spend time manually testing when the computer can do that for you? Cutting down on the time that you spend testing is the best way to stay productive. This final tip is probably the number one tip I have to give you guys to become a great software engineer. And that is simply to code, and keep coding. The best way to get good at anything is just to do that thing as much as possible. Eat, sleep, code, and repeat. This will be the shortest, quickest way to get you to become a great software engineer. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. If you have, hit that subscribe button, share it with your friends. I'd be more than happy to keep sharing tips about software engineering, startups, and don't forget to comment. I'd love to hear your feedback about more tips that I can share with you guys. Thanks.